Beneath the sands of Western India lie the foundations of a civilization that once encompassed a larger territory than either ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia. Despite its scale, this massive urban system remained invisible for thousands of years. In 1857, British engineers building a railway through the Indus Valley found millions of fired bricks scattered across massive dirt mounds. They used the ancient masonry as roadbed ballast, laying 93 miles of track directly on top of the crushed remains of an unknown city. Archaeological excavations in the 1920s finally revealed the source of those bricks, the sprawling cities of Harappa and Mohenjodaro. As laborers cleared the earth, they uncovered a level of urban planning that was previously thought impossible for this era. These cities operated on sophisticated street grids with public wells and covered drainage systems. However, researchers found a strange gap in the record. There were no monumental temples and no identifying palaces. The typical markers of religious power in the ancient world were missing. They did find thousands of these, carved stone stamp seals used for business and personal property. While the animals are clear, the script at the top remains a great undeciphered language. Without readable texts, our understanding of their belief system must be reconstructed from the physical features of the cities and the images on these seals. This forces us to look at their urban artifacts, the ritual platforms and the carved stones, to find the main features of India's first urban religion. Mohenjo-daro was built around a monumental platform on its western side. This artificial mound was secured by a brick retaining wall 20 feet thick, creating a high city for the community's most important structures. The most significant structure on this platform was not a house for a god, but a massive sunken tank known as the Great Bath. Its construction was incredibly deliberate. The tank was waterproofed with bitumen tar and featured a flight of steps at each end, leading down to built-in benches. Nearby, a row of rooms provided individual bathing facilities, each with its own drain. Physical hygiene could be maintained at any of the 70 wells throughout the city. The placement of this bath on the ritual platform suggests it was used for ceremonial purification, a symbolic passage through water before performing other rites. In the absence of a central temple, this elaborate system of water and waste control became the architectural and spiritual focus of Indus life. The images on the seals reveal how the Indus people visualized their gods. On this steatite seal, a humanoid figure sits in a yogic pose, wearing large water buffalo horns. He is flanked by a rearing tiger and a head-tossing water buffalo in combative arousal. Contemporary linguistic analysis suggests the language on these seals was a form of Proto-Dravidian. In this context, the figure represents a master of nature, an ascetic whose power is derived from the self-discipline required to resolve the tension between these wild, opposing forces. The seal portrays a deity whose dominance is rooted in internal control rather than external kingship, setting a precedent for religious archetypes that would reappear centuries later. Across the seal record, a specific triad of symbols appears repeatedly: the goddess, the tiger, and the water buffalo. These deities were often depicted residing within the branches of neem or peepal trees. The seals show worshippers kneeling before these trees, presenting offerings to a goddess who could be both healing and dangerous. The most significant offerings involved blood sacrifice. Seals show figures in ritual poses, stabbing water buffalo with spears, or presenting severed heads to the goddess in the tree. This was based on a belief in the transfer of a life force. By sacrificing the most powerful animal available, the water buffalo, priests released its live blood to appease and empower the deity who resided in the earth. Indus religion was an active, sacrificial system that used the ritual platforms of the cities to facilitate this violent transfer of power to a fierce goddess. Around 1900 BCE, the Indus urban system began to collapse. Shifting river courses and changing trade routes drove people out of the cities, and the sophisticated script vanished with the urban elite. While the cities were abandoned, the people carried their religious features with them into the rural villages. The urban civilization devolved back into agricultural communities, preserving elements of the culture that could be maintained without monumental architecture. We see the legacy of the Great Bath in the practice of ritual bathing that remains a standard feature of modern Hinduism. The emphasis on water as a source of purification has persisted for over 4,000 years. The symbolic triad of the goddess, the feline, and the water buffalo also appears in much later Hindu art. The goddess Durga is depicted in the same foot-on-head pose seen on Indus seals as she spears the water buffalo demon. These core elements, the ritual bathing and the goddess triad, persisted in the village cultures, forming a hidden foundation for Indian religion as it moved into the next era. As this goddess-worshipping culture was expanding through the rural villages, a new group was approaching the subcontinent, the Aryans. These nomadic Indo-Europeans brought war chariots, the Sanskrit language, and a completely different system of priestly rituals focused on male gods. The collision between these two worlds, the ancient Indus survivors and the incoming Aryans, would ultimately create the complex framework of modern Hinduism. That transition is the subject of our next chapter.